Good afternoon. This is the In My Opinion show. I am Henry Hatter, your host today. This afternoon I have a very interesting guest. He is well respected, he's well educated, and he's well positioned in the community. And today I'm going to be asking him questions that I've been afraid to ask others. And I know that he will do a great job. Why? Because he's experienced and he's erudite. And he has served. He served on the Democrat State Committee, Central Committee, for the Genesee County Democratic Black Caucus, president of the Greater Flint African American Sports Hall of Fame, the UAW alternate committeeman, a business owner, and a very well positioned person to talk about politics in Genesee County and the state. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you, Mr. Hatter. I appreciate that. You made me sound really good there. And I'm working on my eruditeness, whatever that means. But.
Okay.
Hey, yeah, I'm a lifelong Flint resident. Born and raised in this city, love this city. I consider myself a true Flintstone. And quite frankly, this is a democratic city. And so I can represent that from all different angles. But I bark a lot, but I don't bite, so...
But does that mean, Michael, I don't have a voice here?
Yeah, absolutely.
You say this is a Democrat city.
Absolutely.
And I don't have a voice, right?
Well, you might have a small voice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Michael, let me ask you.
Sure.
Do you believe in the Constitution of the United States?
Do I believe in the Constitution?
As it is written.
Right. I think as far as the Constitution is concerned, I don't believe it's a document you need to necessarily believe in, but it's a set of principles. And I truly understand and follow the Constitution. It's the thing that has kept us together as a nation for over 200 years. It's the thing that has made us strong. And it's, quite frankly, we've exported it to other places and they copy it. And it's a greatly respected document. Sure.
Well, I think you just said what I had hoped you would say when I asked you the question. Do you believe in the Constitution? You said it was a set of principles.
Sure.
But it's a document, an enduring document, that has held us free, that has protected the black man, that's protected other people, the women, and the feeble, and the poor.
Yeah, but it could be determined and moved around in different ways that people can manipulate it. So, and when you say belief to me, you sound more like, is it a religious thing? And I'm always concerned with individuals who want to put the Constitution on par with religion. The Constitution guarantees that we have freedom of religion. So that's what the Constitution does. It's a wonderful part of it, and I'm definitely down with that.
That's why we have separation.
Yeah.
We don't.
But that's involved, and it's.
But you have to have a belief in something before you can substantially operate within it.
Well, the Constitution mentions that. It's a document that gives us freedom, guaranteed by our unalienable rights that are given to us by our higher power, and that's fine, and that's what the Constitution does. And
let me ask you.
Follow it from that point of view, sure.
Here's something that's always, and this is a question that's out of the order that I would ask you.
Okay.
But I've been in schools around Flint for a long time.
Right.
And today, when they call for the Pledge of Allegiance,
right.
Do you know that your kids don't stand up? They don't salute.
Wow. Where are you seeing this at?
You just walk in any school and
the kids aren't standing up for the.
They don't stand up. They don't cite the Pledge of Allegiance. Maybe a very few. What do you say to people and parents who do that? Because this is our country. This is not somebody else's country. And we must believe in the country, and we must be abided by its principles, because if we don't, then other people won't consider us serious.
And I agree with that. I mean, the Constitution that we just mentioned allows you to say the pledge or to not say the pledge. But from my own experience, everywhere that I go, no matter whether I'm at African American events, mixed crowd events, people always say the pledge. I mean, I'm a former military guy, So I put my hand over my heart. I can see many other people doing that. I do not see, particularly young people, who don't, number one, know the pledge, and who, number two, would choose to not even recite it. It's not. The pledge is like, a nursery rhyme to every kid, and definitely Flint and around the country. They all know it, and so I take issue with the fact that people and kids in K through 12 don't recite the pledge.
You sound like a Republican now.
Do I? If Republicans stick to the facts, if Republicans are always talking about what's right, and the Republicans are for the Constitution, I'm a Republican.
Yeah.
But they don't do that.
Yeah, you do a good job, and I'm glad that you feel very conscious about the Constitution.
Absolutely.
And Michael, I'll just briefly touch upon this.
Right.
When I see people elected to the city council,
right,
they don't give me the impression that they've ever read the Constitution.
Okay.
And they move through public policy development just as if there's no guiding principles at all. And they tend to be making the law up as they go along.
Wow. Those are strong words.
Yeah,
wow.
That's right. I don't. It's sad because we need to have people in this country who really represent something, in particular people who can be mentors to kids.
Definitely.
Who will become the arithmetic and political majority along with the Hispanics of this country by 2050.
Okay.
Shouldn't we be teaching our kids something about what they should be doing in order to accept this kind of responsibility in the years ahead?
And this is where I'm going to beat up on Republicans a little bit. So can you allow me a second?
Oh, sure. Please do.
I'm going to beat up on your fellow Republicans. Quite frankly, we don't take education seriously in this country. It's obvious because of teacher pay, bashing teacher unions, which are dedicated to make sure we have good qualified teachers. Additionally, we don't put the monies towards it like we should. There should be a full-fledged mission for this country, instead of breaking up schools, splitting them apart, funding them by making sure that we fund our schools by property values. The government, which let me say by and large, which education makes America great, and we don't value it here. And the Republicans at the state legislature and in general, I believe, don't value particularly minority education, but for sure education as a whole, because we don't put the monies towards it. They're always talking about how much it costs, but for something as important as education, it costs. The money shouldn't be an issue. We should pay teachers well. They should be rock stars. They should be getting paid like basketball players. And there's an economy to support that. You don't
really mean that, do you?
Yeah. Well, why don't we? Who is the greatest teacher right now in the country? Do you know her name? Do you know his name?
No.
But we should. We should. The teachers who are doing great things should be known to us, and they should be valued.
And you don't think that Republicans value education or teachers?
Well, what I'm saying is that with the event of charter schools, union busting, continuing to talk about how much education costs, and not talking about what the goals should be of education, it's hurting us as a country.
Well, that's something for the educators to do. What government does is only fund it. And government needs to stay out of it.
Out of education?
Yes, it needs to stay out of education, except to put a threshold around its regulation, but not to delve into it. That's a free enterprise issue.
Well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
And teachers are the fastest growing pay scale in this country. Industry is declining, but teachers are rising. The average teacher I'm going to use Clio.
Okay.
Gets $60,000 a year. Okay.
Right.
What does the average person in industry get?
Right. Wait.
Hang on. Now we're talking about teachers.
Yeah, we are.
It is.
That's not enough money for me, but yeah.
But even professors, some of our teachers rank with professors. And there's only so much money in the coffers.
Right.
And teachers, and our education is not the best in the world.
Okay.
Our education has slipped. It's slipped tremendously. We used to have the best educated people in the country. The Americans built the world's economy
Yes.
based
we did.
upon the education system that we had.
I agree with
When
you.
you went to school and I went to school,
Right.
we learned to read
Sure.
right away.
Right.
And but today that is not the case.
Yeah, because Republicans have done everything they can to dismantle the New Deal. And the New Deal was, we're going to educate everybody. We're going to make sure the standards are great. We're going to pay teachers properly. And if you're talking about teacher pay is going up,
Yes.
I juxtapose that compared to, say, 1940s to where we get to the 70s, where teacher pay was probably on par with other people. But considering their education, teachers' education, considering the job they do and the time they put in, they do not get as much pay as their peers who are doing the same
Teachers
type of
only work 9 months out of the year.
Well,
$60,000 is a lot of money.
Not a teacher myself, but I'm sure any teacher would tell you it takes them a month and more time to prepare for the next year's school purposes. And just getting that time off doesn't mean a thing. You still got to be, as a good teacher, preparing yourself full on all year round. They got to re-educate themselves. They've got to train themselves. So I wouldn't, say that that's a bad thing. You get time off to go ahead and re-educate yourself as a teacher to retrain yourself.
So now you made the accusation that Republicans are not doing their job.
Yeah.
And making sure that teachers find adequate sources of funding so
Sure.
that the funding is reliable
Right.
and renewable.
Well,
Right?
you said
This is what you were saying,
Yeah, well,
right?
you said, Mr. Adder, you're my buddy. You said the government should not be in education, right?
No, they shouldn't.
All right,
They
so,
fund it.
So putting that into context.
Okay.
If government isn't into education, then we're going to make it a private,
No.
pseudo-private.
No.
We're not. We're going to have government in it, or we're going to have government out of it. Which one?
Well,
is
government has to regulate it, but it doesn't go in and decide.
Hmm.
That's a home rule thing, kind of a thing, right?
Well,
Your school board here in Flint is an independent board.
right.
It governs.
Sure.
And anything that's wrong with this education system in this city
Right.
belongs to the school board. It is not the governor's. It is not Clio's. It's not Grand Blank's, but it's the city of Flint.
Well, I think once again we're getting back to my point about funding.
Okay.
But additionally, when you're talking about our school board here in Flint or things like that, the funding issue has restricted certain things. As you get layoffs every year, you don't have particular equipment for the students. All those things add
Oh,
up.
Michael.
Oh, absolutely.
Please.
I mean, listen, we can point to all types of things about waste or fraud, even abuse. But the fact that remains, there's more abuse in the private sector, or even when you talk about government, military sector, or other things that nobody cares anything about. But the most important institution that makes us better than other countries, education,
Yes, so that-
is being dismantled and not taken seriously. I'll give you an example. If you look around the world, those places that have an educated populace are rising, and we're for major countries around the world, we're down on the bottom of that.
Well,
And
not quite the bottom.
And most of that stems from Republican policies of cutting and union bashing and things like that.
I can name one thing that I can say that Democrats do by themselves, or are they blamed by themselves?
They're blamed by themselves. Okay.
No,
Not one thing.
because no, nothing. I cannot.
Well,
Not
okay.
that everything they do is perfect,
Right.
but that's something
Near perfect, but-
that everybody has to engage in
Yeah.
and accept responsibility for. And Republicans, they have their own views,
Right.
and certainly they believe that America should have the best educated populace in the world, as it did in the past.
Sure.
Did you ever read A Nation at Risk?
No, I never did. No.
Okay, you should. When you get a chance, you should read A
Okay.
Nation in Risk, because it talks about the school system, its failings.
Right.
Teachers who don't meet education standards,
Right.
they don't teach in the classes where they're proficient. You may
well,
teach outside of those classes.
and you think that's the fault of Democrats?
I never said that.
Okay.
But I'm saying that I'm quoting from the Nation at Risk.
Right.
Things that are wrong with the American education system. And it was not Republicans that criticized the American education, but it was the educated populace
Right.
that began to draw conclusions about the American education system and its failing.
Has the American education system ever worked, in your opinion?
Yes.
Okay, so see, this is what I try to pin Republicans down on. If it worked, when did it work? It worked at a time when we had what you would call big government, and we had certain standards, but there was a local. When we're talking about the local issues, there was a local control. We're getting away from that with these standards that come from the federal government, standards that come from every state. So you got 50 different state standards. And so once we get back to a point where we have a nation dedicated towards making sure education is the number one priority for all of our children, no matter where they are, whether they're in the Appalachian states or whether they're in deep sections of Florida, whether they're in California or Alaska, we should care about all our kids.
I think we do. Now, Michael,
Okay.
here's something else.
Sure.
While we were talking about this is a very healthy conversation.
Gotcha.
And we have needed to have this conversation
Yes.
for many years,
Yep.
but nobody will step up and have this conversation.
Yeah.
And one of the things, as you know, inner cities
Yeah.
have the worst education systems in the country.
Yeah.
And it's not only just Flint or Detroit or Los Angeles, Chicago, and all of those, Atlanta,
Right.
but and all of them perform poorly.
Yeah.
And the
That hasn't always
majority,
been the case, though. Has it?
well, not when we were a segregated system.
We
Yeah.
want to go back to segregation?
No, I don't want to go back there. Nobody
just
wants to
checking.
go
Just
back there.
checking. Okay, all right.
No, but I'm saying
Right.
that blacks did quite well with their populations for what they had. They had challenges, but they did teach the kids how to read.
Yeah.
They didn't have all of the resources as they do have today, and we made a lot of progress.
Yeah, we
But
made
the point
a
I
tremendous
wanted,
amount of progress.
but the point I want to make,
Sure.
we should be equal
We should be.
to everybody. We should be able to accomplish the
Yeah.
same things that Asian Americans and white Americans
Yeah.
and Hispanics and
Well,
Middle Eastern.
Are we
But
discounting the fact that we do have an African American president who's highly educated, he and his wife? I mean, there are many, many success stories. Even if you want to talk about a Republican like Dr. Ben Carson, there are many educated African Americans, and they're coming through the pipeline all the time. I think sometimes we concentrate on the negative and not accentuate the
But
positive.
if you don't recognize that there is a negative,
Yeah.
you will never improve.
So let me go there.
Okay.
But there's a greater populace of individuals who are not getting educated. And I think a lot of that stems from, like I said again, the neglect of education of everyone. Some people feel like, well, even if this is a Republican principle, and I'm going to describe it and you can correct me if you want. Hey, you need to get out of those failing schools. Wait a minute. Are we accepting that there are even failing schools in America?
Yes, we do.
And we shouldn't. That's where
There are standards that must be made, and we're not. All schools are not
but
meeting
the
the
issue
standards.
should not be that. There are definitely models to find out what works, and wherever we think we have a failing school, we should automatically go in and turn it around, and that should be our
Who
priority.
should do it?
The populace, which is
The local controlled people.
absolutely and
Why aren't they doing it? Flint is a great example.
So let me get back to that point once again. Republican policies, and we even see this right here in Michigan.
We don't have Republicans in Genesee County.
Well,
I am the only Republican in
but
Genesee
the state
County.
government chokes off Flint. And we don't even have to talk about Detroit. What they're doing now, it's the abominable what they're doing in Flint, in Detroit, and you talk about inner city kids.
Yeah.
The inner cities in this
Because I'm
state.
concerned about them.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure just by our policies, Republicans do not care about that. Even if we want to talk about the water issue in Flint, that's just a symptom of the bigger educational problem in the cities like Flint and Detroit.
How?
Because the funding, once again, getting back to my point about the government of the state The Republicans who've been running this state for years care not about the inner cities and the education of those kids in that inner city. Not a dime, because they don't put the resources into them.
But resources come from local taxes.
All right, so that now you get into another point of mine. Why do we calculate them that way?
I don't know, but that's how
exactly.
that's how it is.
And we shouldn't. We should get rid of that type of control.
How should we calculate it?
Well, I mean, if we all should put them in a pot and distribute them evenly, depending on what the standards are by the local control.
Shouldn't you reward good schools over poorly performing schools?
Well, I don't know. I mean,
now ask yourself that, because that's important. This is how human beings do things.
No doubt.
You reward your best kids.
Well, you should reward kids, but I don't believe in the fact that you should say, well, this school has to have competition, and you've only got this many resources, and you should be competing with this school that has this many resources, and you guys should just be on the same par. I mean, that's like me going in and beating up on you, Mr. Hatter. I'm 6'7" and 245 pounds.
I know.
I mean, you're probably a tough dude, but nobody would think right off the bat that, yeah, Mike's going to be able to get beat up by Mr. Hatter. You might know karate.
Mike might be a bully. I don't know. And I don't see Mike as doing that.
Yeah, no. But I'm saying just competition in education is not necessarily the issue. The issue should be making sure that everyone has the proper resources.
Okay, thank you, Michael.
Yeah.
I have to move on.
Oh,
We
yeah,
haven't
okay,
solved
we'll move
it.
on.
And we will probably come back to that again.
Definitely.
And I hope that you will come back again.
Yeah. You invite me.
Has President Obama been a good president? Explain.
Oh my goodness! Absolutely. Wonderful president.
Explain.
When you talk about the president and what he's accomplished, it's unbelievable. This president will go down as one of the greatest presidents we've ever had. Mm-hmm. Surely better than Reagan. Absolutely better than any Bush.
But you're taking and comparing, drawing conclusions based upon party affiliation. And I can't think of one president, Democrat or Republican, that I would take out of the file of people since George Washington that we ought to get rid of. I can't think of one.
Well, let me say this. I mean, listen.
And you can put one of the Republicans, right?
It just happens to be all the great presidents seem to be Democrats. FDR and I'll put Teddy Roosevelt, who was a Republican, but he was a Republican at the time when Republicans were like Democrats are today, which is a whole nother topic. But I'd say FDR. I like President Johnson. I thought that he was a great president.
I like Johnson too.
Johnson was a great president. Of course, everyone loves Kennedy, but Bill Clinton was an excellent president.
I don't see that.
Well, I understand that, but if you want to look at the numbers, they all add up, and he turned things around. But this president here, this wonderful president that we have, and Barack Obama, will go down as one of the greatest presidents.
Based on what?
Forgetting his color.
Okay, based on what?
Well, I can go down like a list of things. I mean, he's equal pay for equal work. We're talking about he passed a stimulus bill, removed troops from Iraq, drew down from there. He saved. This is a General Motors town.
Did he create a better world, one with less fear and less insecurity?
Absolutely.
Or did he create a greater?
I'd say less fear, because now when people see this president around the world, they have respect for America. They have respect for that office. I don't know if we get Donald Trump as president, that'll definitely change. But he has shown us as a country that we can be proud of our president again. That's a wonderful thing. I mean, you want to be able to have the guy that goes out and represents you. You don't have to worry about him being...
well, let me ask you this, Michael.
Sure.
Can you think of one blunder that the president has made that would otherwise detract from his greatness?
President Obama?
Yes.
He's almost batting like a pitching a no-hitter.
Nobody pitches a no-hitter.
Perfect.
No, not even George Washington and anybody else. You can go back and pull out these nuances where they blundered all the way through and stumbled. Republicans and Democrats. But you can't think of anything that Obama has done
we should let history decide that. But in the interim, think about the economy and how it's been turned around. Think about he ended torture. He killed Osama bin Laden. Not physically himself, but he made sure we got that.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Absolutely great thing.
You think so?
Yes, it was. Sure.
Well, but there are people who would argue with you that he destabilized the world.
No, I disagree with that. I mean, going into Iraq.
But you're only one person.
Well, I think
The rest of the world says, hey, that was a big
There
blunder.
are millions of people who agree with Michael Harris. They said, "Yeah, I agree with that dude right there. Just what he said. I agree with that shit."
Okay. So, what would you like to see President Obama do more of on the one hand and less of on the other hand? To show that this guy is human and he's like all of us and he's like other presidents.
Well, you're asking me this question,
Yeah,
so I'm going
that's
to take
the
it from a personal standpoint.
Okay.
I would have loved for him to go in and with like gangbusters and bang heads and kick and take names, but that's not his style. And he has shown me and many other Americans that his style is effective. It brings everybody in. It's why you and I can talk all the time. We talk on the phone and we can. It's not about beating each other up. It's about listening to the other side, listening to the other person, but also working together. And he has shown America that even though you don't agree with me on this particular issue, let's find some common ground. I mean, that's the thing that will make him, in my opinion, turn out to be one of the greatest presidents alive we've ever had, and other people will be judged by his philosophy.
Well, I'd like to go on, ask you.
Yeah.
At the state committee,
Sure.
when you elected your delegates to the National Convention,
Definitely.
did you have black delegates elected?
Well, I mean, we're Democrats. We got back there.
Okay.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many?
I don't know the numbers. One good thing about being a Democrat is you don't have to count the black folks there. There's probably too many to be even counted, so it doesn't matter.
Okay. Now, do you know what the story is with the Republican Party?
Not really familiar with it.
Well, they blundered.
Well,
they
they
didn't
did.
elect one black delegate, which
Wow.
was a mistake.
Wow.
And that's the first time that I've
Sad.
ever known them do that.
Sad.
But will I stop being a Republican because of that? No.
No.
And besides, I got to ask you one last
Okay.
thing. When Democrats criticize Republicans, black Republicans, do they demean them purposely?
I don't know. I mean,
Or do they consider them equal to Democrats?
Well, I think, from my experience, most people who decide to be Republicans, they happen to be black or African American or what have you. In my opinion, there's an easier path up as opposed to being a black.
Where do you
Democrat.
think black Republicans come from?
Where they come from?
Yes.
I mean,
They're not born.
I disagree. They are born. There's some
No,
people.
they're not born.
Hey, Mr.
It takes 20
Mr.
years.
Mr. Hatter is born
It
into you. You're born into wealth.
My kids are born as Republicans, but other
Right.
people are not born there.
Yeah, well,
And the ones that are coming over are called warmed over Democrats because they come out of the Democratic Party.
Well, I mean, I can't speak for most Republicans, but my opinion on Republicans is most of them have a silver spoon. in their
Okay,
mouth.
Michael, I'm
And they-
sorry. We got to bring the show
Okay, you wanna
to
stop?
You've been a great guest. I
Okay.
really love you on this show. So
Yeah.
now the show must come to an end.
Sure.
And I'd like to thank all of our guests, and I'd like to thank you, Michael, personally, and I'd like to invite you back again.
Definitely.
Until next time, stay focused.